Well, I think there are huge opportunities to do business on the African continent. If you look at the $350 billion businesses in Africa today, a third of those are multinationals. They are German companies, French, US companies, Chinese companies who have built significant businesses in Africa, right? So again, huge opportunity to do that. What needs to change is, one, recognizing the opportunity, right? Recognizing that there are challenges on the continent, but with those challenges come opportunities. So really recognizing and taking more of a lens of the opportunity and going after it. So I think that's one. Two is also you need to be a bit more discerning around where you go after the opportunity. If you look at in the past, there was growth everywhere. So every country you went to provided you huge opportunities. Now you need to be a bit more careful, right? Growth has slowed down. It's not the same across different countries, so a bit more thoughtful about it. And then three is we found that the people, the multinationals that have been the most successful have done two things. One is they've been in the continent the longest, and two, they're in the larger number of countries, are diversified across multiple countries. So again, take a bit of that approach of saying we're going to take a long-term perspective in our business in Africa. We're going to hit some road bumps along the way, but we'll take a long-term perspective. But we'll also make sure we are diversified over time across, whether it's across sectors or across countries, to weather the storms. Well, for the German private sector, they will do more on the continent. I think, again, it's taking a lens of where the opportunity is, and actually, like I said earlier, really going after the opportunity. I think it's also thinking about partnerships. Right? What we found is the multinationals that have actually also been quite successful, folks who really understand the dynamics in country. And for that, it's quite important to sometimes have local partners. So think about how you're structuring the businesses, where you can actually develop these relationships with the local partners. And then the third thing I would say is, there's this big difference between the perception of risk and the reality on the ground. So it's really being a lot more granular, being more present on the ground, understanding, where there's true risk, and there are some risks in some areas, but where the risk is overstated, right? And to be able to make that judgment call requires you to be much more on the ground and have a good pulse for what's going on. So I'd encourage him to do more of that. The potential of the use is enormous across Africa. We are, the youngest continent. We will have 800 million people joining the workforce over the next 25 years, in a context where China will lose 200 million people to the workforce, context where Europe is going to lose about 150 million people to the workforce, and where North America stays flat. So the world is going to turn somewhere for these skills, and increasingly they're going to have to turn to Africa. So the imperative it's no longer an African imperative, it's a global imperative. Now, what needs to be done, one is they need to be skilled and trained and ready to capture those opportunities, because it's also a double-edged sword, right? If we don't do it, we could all be sitting on a time bomb if they're not empowered to create jobs for themselves or to actually find jobs at companies, right? So I think there's a skill issue that is critical that we need to address. And the other is tapping into the global opportunity. It's not going to be enough to train them for Africa. It'll be for the global world. And so I really believe that the next big export from Africa, if we get this right, is not going to be resources, which is what we're exporting today. It's going to be our people, our skills. But they're not going to have to leave the continent to provide those services, because they can do it, through digital channels like we've seen done in India.